Well, even the Kansas City Star has been awfully quiet thus far when it comes to the grand plan of Mayor Quinton Lucas to welcome illegal immigrants to Kansas City to start working. At least that's what the pitch is to you, the Kansas City resident. This was our lead story yesterday, and the mayor, by the way, is going to be on the show coming up at 7:30. That's an hour and a half away from Mayor Lucas being on this show for his weekly Thursday spot, where we're going to ask him about this Bloomberg article that came down 2 nights ago that said the mayor here is working with the mayors in Denver and in New York City to bring illegal immigrants. I know they use all the fancy, nice words, the migrants, the newcomers, whatever the phrase they want to use is on any given day. But they want to bring them here to Kansas City supposedly to work. Kansas City Star took an interesting approach on this that I would have never predicted. So the Kansas City Star has this as their lead story on the website this morning, as they should. The local TV stations, as I noted and noticed last night, kind of didn't even really. They referenced it, but it wasn't their lead story. But anyway, the Star, you would think the Star would be the one who would be out there like, yeah, woo-hoo, let's do this. This is awesome. We love illegals, just not in our backyard. You thought they do that whole like white lib thing, but they really didn't in their news article. They simply made it a news story and, listen, they've got the usual bend to it. But the Kansas City Star writes here in part, cities like Chicago and Los Angeles have struggled to accommodate several hundred thousands of immigrants, they're not immigrants, who have arrived at the country's southern border and could be waiting for years to have their asylum cases adjudicated. The Biden administration has tried to ease the burden on those communities. I love how they write, the Biden administration has tried to ease the burden. Hey, you know how you ease the burden? You close up the border, you dunces. My goodness. Anyway, they've tried to ease the burden on those communities by allowing those migrants from Venezuela and other Central American countries to work legally while they await a final finding on their status. Kansas City has not been inundated with migrants the way some large cities have. Lucas told Bloomberg that local employers could use some of that potential source of labor. The article noted that construction and manufacturing are booming in the Kansas City metro area, singling out the coming Panasonic battery plant in DeSoto and the Meta data center project in the Northland as examples. That's, of course, Facebook. Lucas says the new city budget has $1 million set aside to provide refugees and migrants with short-term housing, health care, and job training. And here's something I didn't expect to see from the Kansas City Star. The Star writes here, Mayor Lucas's repost of the Bloomberg article drew almost universal condemnation from the 390 comments below as of Wednesday afternoon. And then they note a very few sided with Lucas. They end the article saying, while Lucas often engages with commenters on X, he did not in this case. So the Star, on its news article, does not take listen, they had their usual bias to it, but they didn't take the approach of, this is secretly great. This is what Kansas City wants. This is what Kansas City needs. They noted that of the 390 comments that Quinton Lucas got on his social media account on this article, there was almost universal condemnation. And I'm telling you, I got multiple texts. Like, if you think like this is just, people who are right of center, traditional, conservative in nature, they can't stand these illegal immigrants. Well, no, that's not true at all. I'm very much pro-immigration. We're all product of immigrants in this country. I love immigration. That's what makes America great. But guess what? The way this guy's done it the last 3 years is an absolute, utter disaster. It's just basically run across the border, claim you're seeking asylum, and we'll see you in a few years. And you don't know who's who and what's what. And it's a joke. So you don't like the way the guy is doing it. The guy in charge is doing it. It doesn't mean you don't like immigration and you don't like immigrants in this country. That's not true at all. Right? So that's the first part of this that needs to be noted. But then when you also look at the fact that I talked to multiple people who are in the black community in Kansas City yesterday, some of them just reached out to me and said, Pete, this is a disaster. I didn't reach out to them. They were listening to the show yesterday, and they heard me talking about it. And they said, Pete, this is just terrible policy. They were pointing out that this doesn't help their community. That's exactly right. It doesn't. In fact, those who are working poor people in Kansas City will be the most impacted. They'll be competing for housing suddenly with illegal immigrants who are going to be showing up. They'll be competing for services with these folks as well. I mean, that's what they're going to be dealing with. And as I was digging through some numbers yesterday, I'm always trying to find a way to bring you some new numbers. There's going to be a spin here that you're going to hear. That the only people we're going to get theoretically in Kansas City under this policy that got reported first by Bloomberg 2 days ago, that Kansas City is working with Denver and New York to bring in illegal immigrants to supposedly work. What needs to be noted, and this came from a House Judiciary investigation that was done. Here's the number that matters. Most people here are not here truly claiming asylum in the legitimate sense. This House committee, and this article stems from October of last year, 6% of illegal immigrants were found to have a legitimate fear of persecution over the last 2 years, debunking the administration's claim that they're just asylum seekers looking for a new home. Once again, this came from a report out of the House Judiciary Committee and the Immigration Subcommittee that 6% were found to have a legitimate fear of persecution, which means the other 94%, maybe I'm sure the vast majority want to be here for a better life. But there are millions of people around the world who are waiting to come here and literally dying to come here, and they're looking to do it the right way. And many are not. And the other question that I will have for the mayor when he comes on the show here at 7:30 this morning is, if you say, well, I just want to take the people in who are going to come here and want to work. Well, I'll tell you right now, if everyone was coming here and just wanted to work, don't you think Denver and New York would be in a much better situation than they find themselves in right now? And wouldn't you think that Denver and New York would keep the folks who have skill sets and want to work? The problem is not the vast majority who want to work and want to get, a leg up. The problem is you have too many people who are leeching off the system. That's the problem. And I know, you can't say that. Well, come on, you can't make those. No, that's the problem. So you're telling me the mayors in Denver and New York are going to say, all you that want to work, you go to Kansas City. The ones that want to keep, mooching off the taxpayer and being bums, you stay here. You think that's how it's going to work with those two mayors? You think that's what they're going to do? I mean, use some common sense here for a second. Just a little bit. It doesn't make any sense. It does not add up. And that's why, when the mayor comes on here in an hour and 20 minutes, I've got so many questions. And I'm sure you do too. And if you have questions that you want answered, now's the time to tell me about them at 913-4087-957. 913-4087-957 as we kick it off on a Thursday morning. It is great to be here on KCMO 95.7 FM. Make sure you're streaming us as well as you get your morning started on the iHeart or TuneIn apps. How did other local media handle this over the last 24 hours? We got some of those clips. We'll get to that and you here on KCMO. On a Thursday morning, man, this is, I'm not going to say I'm shocked by this, but the way the last 36 hours have unfolded on this story suggests to me that the mayor didn't want this news story coming out from Bloomberg. I think he wanted to work on this, and I'm going to ask him this, when Kansas City was going to find out about these plans, why Kansas City found out about these plans to ship in illegal immigrants from Denver and New York, from Bloomberg.com. why we didn't find out from somebody here at the local level who was working on this negotiation to make this happen. All these questions that I have, and I got to imagine many of you have as well. 913-408-7957 is how you join us here on KCMO Talk Radio. Kirk's in Riverside. Hey, Kirk, good morning.
Morning. I got a question. I think you mentioned he says he set aside like, I don't know, $1 million
Yes,
to
sir.
handle all these people. Well, I've read articles that Denver is spending, I don't know, it's a heck of a lot more money than $1 million. So what does he think? That he's just going to get all these people and he's going to do it better than anybody else and he can handle all these people for $1 million or less?
Yeah, no, you're right.
New York, they're spending billions of dollars trying to handle these people.
Denver,
Is he nuts?
Denver has allocated $100 million to provide shelter, medical care, and schooling for illegal immigrants. Kansas City has set aside 1/100th of that. You're right. So, but this is part of this made-up, I think, idea that we're going to get the best of the best. They're all going to flood Kansas City for a job, so we don't actually have to take care of them.
Yeah, unfortunately, none of these people are skilled because that's what the battery plant needs. They need skilled builders and laborers, and I guarantee you none of these people have those skills.
But even,
very few of them.
Very few. Kirk, here's the thing. And even the ones that do, like, there are jobs for them in Denver and New York, so why would they leave for Kansas City if they actually have the skill sets?
Yep, I think this is just I think this is just nuts.
Yeah. Kirk, thank you. Appreciate you. 913-408-7957. Stephen is on KCMO out of Johnson County. What's up, Stephen?
Hey, how's it going, Doc?
All right, my man. How are you?
I can't complain. The Lord been good to me. I just wanted to say that, especially to the black community, this is the results of your voting with half the information. It doesn't surprise me that he's doing what he's doing because he's been like this all along, but he has nothing to lose because now he's termed out. So pretty much he can do pretty much anything he wants to do. And the backlash, he probably don't even look at it now because he didn't comment on that thing. But how do you vote for a person that could put $1 million away for people that come here illegally, but they can't put $1 million in the east side of town and make the situation better over there? This is the results of your voting because you voted for him because he was black or because he was Democrat. And look what you got now. And every time I think about moving back to Kansas City, it's still like this. It made me not want to come back.
Stephen, thank you. By the way, I met your buddy. I didn't meet him. I saw him again. Your buddy, Pastor John Jones. I saw him on Saturday.
Yeah, Dr. John City Jones. He was at the thing on Saturday, him and Ryan Dirks.
Yeah. I saw Pastor Jones there. He's a good man.
Yes, man. Yes, sir, he is.
Yep. Stephen,
right.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate you. 913-408-7957. James and Shawnee. What's up, James?
Yeah, this experiment with bringing in immigrants it's already been done. I was stationed in a place called Schweinfurt, Germany, and the Army moved out of there, and they've taken in tons of immigrants, and I still know people in the town. It's just crime is way up. There's stabbings, like places that used to be great to go to are no longer great to go to. We already have a problem with crime in this city. We already have a problem with not enough police, and you're going to bring more people that don't want to assimilate to what we do as an American.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and where was that? Where was that again overseas, James?
Schweinfurt, Germany.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Europe's obviously had a tremendous problem on this front. Once again, unfettered immigration, illegal immigration in large part, with folks coming from the Middle East and Africa on their end versus, ours is more Central America. And it's become a huge mess for them. And there is now a populist pushback in that part of the world, as I understand it. I don't know if you still hear that from friends over there, but it sounds like there is a populist pushback against it.
Yeah, there's tons of problems. The people that I know there say that there's like areas that we used to, when I used to live there, we used to go to and have lunch and stuff. Like you don't go down there alone anymore. It's similar to what we're seeing at the plaza. Mm-hmm. They have really, really strict gun laws there. So people are getting stabbed because, guns are the problem.
Oh, man, what a mess. No. What a mess. But good perspective from overseas there. We appreciate that, James.
Thank you.
Gosh, I mean, that's just like, this is common sense. This is like, people are going to say that this is a highly political issue and that I'm taking the stance I'm taking because of politics or something like that. No, I just have like a little bit of brains, like not a ton. I've got a few brain cells in my head. Sometimes they work. It's common sense is all this is. Now, local media has kind of been very, very soft on a lot of this. I want to play this from KCTV5 last night.
With construction and manufacturing businesses booming in Kansas City, Mayor Quinton Lucas is looking to migrants across the country to help with the labor shortage in the area.
What we are saying is, if you've gone through that work, a work permit, you've worked with the Department of Homeland Security, and you are lawfully present here in the United States, then you know what? We want to welcome you. We want to make sure there's a way you can find work in our community.
The sentiment has been met with a mix of reactions. For Ralph Oropesa, the business manager for the Greater Kansas City Building and Construction Trades Council, it's personal.
My parents came here back in 1967. I was born here. They came from Mexico. And so, my father worked as a migrant.
He agrees with Mayor Lucas, but wants there to be reasonable conversation around the topic.
These people have done their documentation. They're coming here for help. And if they have permission, then let's really talk about that. We have a need.
He expects business to continue to grow in the area in the coming years.
You're seeing a lot of people from all over the country now moving to Kansas City because with jobs come people. And so housing market is going to grow. And so there you go, more jobs. And so this is why we are asking people to really consider building trades.
Kansas City's recently passed budget doles out $1 million to create new support services for refugees and immigrants.
I think Kansas City will be a leader in making sure that we have that decompression, that housing, those services that are necessary to help people get populated here in our country.
A leader in decompression. That sounds like something that an athlete does after a tough game. We're going to lead the way in decompressing our muscle groups or something like that. No, we're talking about basically spreading illegal immigrants out around the country. That's what the word decompression means. And, this notion that the best of the best are going to leave Denver. They're going to leave New York, where, by the way, they originally wanted to be. And they have these skill sets, and they're going to come to Kansas City. I mean, who's buying that? Are you the taxpayer, the citizen? And don't think it's just Kansas City, by the way. This will have regional impacts. You buying that? 913-408-7957. We'll keep the show rolling with you. A lot of you obviously want to get in on the conversation. The mayor will be here in 1 hour on KCMO 95.7. When you really dig into these numbers, by the way, it's just a disaster. So if we truly are going to be taking illegal immigrants from Denver and New York to Kansas City, as Bloomberg reported this week and as the mayor confirmed on social media, and he will be here 1 hour from now, you think you'd look at the cities that are dealing with this crisis and be like, gosh, I'd hate to turn into them, right? Here's just some of the numbers that I want to share with you coming out of Denver. This is from News Nation from just a month ago. After more than 40,000 asylum seekers have found their way to Denver and racked up more than $10 million in unpaid medical costs over past years, city officials are struggling to keep up with costs linked to migrants seeking shelter and work. The city's already allocated more than $100 million to provide shelter, medical care, and schooling for asylum seekers. That number could jump to as much as $180 million, 15% of Denver's annual budget, as costs continue to rise. We've got $1 million budget here in Kansas City, per the mayor, for illegal immigrants to, find work, house themselves, medical bills. 1 million. 1 million. That's it. And now we're like, everyone, come on in. Everyone's welcome. Yes, come on over. We're here for you in Kansas City. You freaking kidding me? And by the way, if Kansas City does become this hot spot after people start coming from New York and Denver, then what's going to happen next? Then you're going to get more of an influx of people who are coming to Kansas City, and who's taking care of them at that point? What's the brilliant long-term strategy behind that? It's like this wasn't actually thought out. It was just all about politics. 913-408-7957. Cynthia is in Lake Winnebago. Hey, Cynthia, good morning. What's going on?
Good morning. I have basic questions, so I'm not sure if that's going to sound foolish or ignorant, but who's paying to get them? How are they getting here? Where are they going to live? What schools are we going to incorporate the children into? And two more questions. It's a lot, I'm sorry. It's just real basic. How long are we going to do this for? When the money runs out, who's going to vote, and where's the extra money going to come from? I mean, those are just right off the back of my head when I'm listening to you the last 2 days, really pondering on this. I'm like, like you just said, $1 million is nothing.
Yeah.
$1 million is a lot of money. But in the grand scheme of things, to remove, how many people are going to be here? And how are we going to feed them all? And, the expenses for medical, how is Kansas City going to do this?
Those are absolutely outstanding questions, Cynthia. They're so basic, but they're such easy questions to ask, and they will be on my list 1 hour from now to ask the mayor because, it's basically the who, what, where, when, why, right, is what you're asking here.
Yeah.
And there's been no description on any of this, no answers.
No, it's basic 101. I'm a mother of a 24-year-old and a 20-year-old. I'm a wife. I'm a double income. I have a job. We put our kids through college. I'm a trade. I had to pay for my trade. My trade wasn't free. I didn't acquire the skill set. I had to actually pay to get certified to do it.
Let me ask you this, Cynthia. Is there I know we understand everyone's looking for workers right now, including in the trades. Is that your perception of what you see? They need work, and are they desperate enough to basically say, hey, we'll take anyone who literally has, 2 legs and 2 arms, and we'll teach them how to do this even if, they're here illegally?
No, absolutely not. I can tell you right now, if I left my job after almost 20 years of being in it, God bless it, I'm grateful for it, I don't know where I would go. I mean, it's a trade, but just because you have a trade doesn't mean you're guaranteed a position somewhere. Mm-hmm. It has to be applied for and earned.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter's coming home from college. She's looking for a summer internship job. She's having a hard time finding one.
Yeah.
And she's legal.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we going to put these people in? In grocery stores, in restaurants, in places? Do they speak English?
Mm-hmm. Most don't.
That's another question.
Yeah.
No, look, and I feel bad for them, but, we have people in our own country. What about the homeless here?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing to help that situation? What about cops, policemen, officers? My dad was a Chicago police officer for 30 years. We need more of those. Illegal immigrants aren't going to help that scenario. That $1 million could have gone to funding for the police officers, which we took away from.
Mm-hmm. Cynthia, thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, and thank you so much for your show. I'm a new listener, and I am now addicted. Every morning on my way to work, you guys are what I listen to. Thank you for informing us.
Thank you, Cynthia, for being here. And if you could do one favor for us, you tell 2 friends about the show today, and that helps us tremendously.
Absolutely. I already have.
All right.
I do it every day.
I love that, Cynthia. Thank you.
I'm having flashbacks to this reimagine or refund the police where we didn't really have a plan, but it was just announced. They're like, okay, what's that look like? Nothing.
Yeah.
Crickets.
Not a lot of substance behind it. And thank you to Cynthia in Lake Winnebago. I'm telling you, we keep growing this show. 95.7 has been a huge blessing for us. And you guys tell 2 friends every time you're listening, and we're going to keep this sucker growing. And we've grown it tremendously, and that's really because of you. It's largely because of you here on KCMO. Paul's in Kansas City. He's next up. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Pete. Yeah, I'd just like to, if you could ask Mayor Q after his student loan presentation of this, has he been promised a cabinet position in a second Biden administration? Because it sure seems like he's toting the bag for him. My second point is these are going to be military-age males that are going to come here. Johnson County better get ready because that's where they're going to go. I promise you that's where they're going to head to because that's where the resources are.
Listen, you're right. I see there's a portion, and I think we need to look at this together as a region. I mean, it's easy to say, KCMO screwing up again. What are they thinking? But you're right. Johnson County, Wyandotte, out to Douglas, there will be impacts across the entire region, north, south, east, west. There's no doubt about it, Paul.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you. And listen, as for what's next for Quentin Lucas, maybe he is hedging his bets on Joe Biden getting reelected. Although, gosh, You see the guy in Pennsylvania the last 24 hours. It's like he doesn't know up from down. It's really embarrassing. Randy is in Blue Springs. What's up, Randy? Good morning. You're on KCMO.
Hey, there was a certain day when Obama was in office when Rush Limbaugh came in and said, I have to apologize for my ignorance. He said, I started thinking, and he said, I figured that Obama was doing everything he was doing. He said, I thought he was ignorant politically, and then he realized he's doing it on purpose. And he said, and then the entire thing came together, and he said it made sense. This entire thing is literally to break down not only the culture but the financial. This is an entire thing is on purpose, and just like fashion, who said bell bottoms was ever a good idea? But everybody went with it. And there are people that are saying that the destruction of the American culture to bring us down is a purpose and has a plan. So if you look at it, this is on purpose to destroy us. And you know what? Quentin Lucas, if you're listening to this program, dude, and you really want America, if you don't look at that flag and your heart doesn't palpitate and you don't understand that there are men that gave everything that they had for this nation, then you're a fool.
All right. Thank you very much there, Randy. Appreciate it, brother. There you go. Listen, there's no doubt that from a federal perspective, this is very much about politics for Joe Biden. There's also a belief that this is in part a way for the administration to try to keep inflation down by lowering labor costs. I've seen that speculated on in various circles, that flooding the nation with low-skilled workers will help keep labor costs lower and will help keep inflation lower. I've seen that. I can't confirm or deny it either way in terms of what their motivation might be, but it's not crazy when you think about it. But here's the other part of it, too. You do have a large number of people, I think the vast majority of people who have come here illegally are truly here because they just want a better life. Doesn't make it right. I'm not defending what they do because there's millions of people around the world who want to come here for a better life and do it the right way. So I'm not defending that by any stretch. However, I do believe the vast majority just want a better life. But there still is a cost to the taxpayer to make all that happen. And you got to know who's who, and you have to have resources around it, and you got to have an actual process. And there is no process right now. Jared in Liberty next up. Hey, Jared.
Hey, Pete. Good morning. I was thinking I might have an answer to Cynthia's question. Thankfully, that we raised property taxes in Jackson County, a bunch of people will be evicted, and we can use their homes to house these people. So that'll be nice. But, history history is riddled with people who are looking for a better life, and the people, I don't know if you've ever read the book The Jungle. It doesn't paint a pretty picture. And I don't know, when we go from one location to another, from New York or Denver to Kansas City, and money is changing hands, and someone is facilitating that, how is that not by law human trafficking? And how can Quentin Lucas and Polite Company, these people are subversives. They are tearing the fabric of our society, and they need to be called out for what they are. He's a human trafficker. He's moving people from one place to the next, and they will be exploited when they get here, just like they've been exploited where they're at. Nothing more, nothing less. History has shown us that time and time again. He's a human trafficker. He's added that to his resume. And that may be powerful in the Democratic Party, but I'm sorry, I don't really care about Quentin Lucas. But they're going to end up in Clay County. They're going to end up in Johnson County. They're going to end up at the Liberty Public Schools. And I own a building downtown. There's enough homeless people wandering around it right now. I don't need any more. Mm-hmm. And my property tax bill went from $2,000 to $7,000 in 1 year.
Wow.
So for the luxury of paying an extra $5,000, I get more of this.
Yeah.
So we can't be polite with these people anymore. They hate everything we stand for, and they're trying to make it worse. So thanks, Pete.
Jared, have a great day. Appreciate the sentiments. 913-408-7957. The mayor will be here at 7:35 this morning. If you're not in the car then on 95.7 FM, make sure you are streaming it on the app, on the website, kcmotalkradio.com, or on your Alexa. Well, if we're looking for a little boys' road trip coming up on Monday, John, Mark, and I can all make the trip over to St. Louis University, where Dylan Mulvaney is set to speak. That's right. Yes, that Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan Mulvaney, the trans activist who single-handedly destroyed Bud Light 1 year ago this month, is set to speak at the Wool Ballroom on Monday night at 7 p.m. It says here, join us for a conversation with trans actress, activist, and content creator, best known for her video diary series Days of Girlhood, Dylan Mulvaney. Now, I'm confused. Why is Dylan still using the Dylan thing if Dylan is no longer a Dylan? I'm trying to make sense of everything. But anyway, Dylan Mulvaney speaking at St. Louis University coming up on Monday night at 7 p.m. Now, you might sit here and be like, oh, boy, I should be out. I'm actually not outraged by this. I'm not. I have no problem with Dylan Mulvaney speaking at a college campus. Now, with St. Louis University being a Catholic college, certainly you can make a case that that is not under the purview of what you would expect from a Catholic college. So let's leave that part out of it for a second, all right, because that's its own set of circumstances. But here's my bigger beef with St. Louis University. I'm not going to this, obviously. I mean, John's trying to twist my arm, but I'm not going to this. Mark really wants to go, but I told him I'm not going, okay? I know you guys want to go. You guys can go together. I'm not going. But my bigger beef is how there's a massive double standard at St. Louis University. Rewind to last year when Matt Walsh, who, by the way, is on this radio station every night at 8 o'clock, Matt Walsh was set to be at St. Louis University at an off-campus site last year. So he wasn't at the university. He was at a location just off campus that was being promoted by the St. Louis University College Republicans. And last year, St. Louis University administrators told the organizers that they would be expelled if they were promoting this event with Matt Walsh on campus with posters advertising his lecture. So that's the kind of double standard that has me much more upset with St. Louis University. Their rampant hypocrisy. Not that they're having Dylan Mulvaney on. I mean, listen, it's a great grift, right? Like, if you can just start saying you're something you're not and making money and getting endorsement deals, I mean, you know, this is America. I think it's bizarre, but this is America. You do you. But college campuses should be places where opinions across the board are welcomed, are promoted, are advertised. And instead, here you have St. Louis University bragging about Dylan Mulvaney coming in on Monday night for a big speech, which, like, what do you say? Like, but whatever. You have a right to choose whether or not you want to go to it, right? That's what college campuses should be about. But last year, when Matt Walsh was set to do an event with the St. Louis Young Republicans, college Republicans, and the people who were organizing it got told by administrators that they would potentially face expulsion if they put up posters promoting that event anywhere on campus, that is not a serious university. It's just, there's nothing about that that is a legitimate university. And you remember, come on, you remember Dylan Mulvaney, don't you? Come on.
Normalize the bulge. We are normalizing the bulge. Women can have bulges, and that's okay. We're not going to stare at their crotches while they're wearing their little shopping shorts at the mall.
Oh, man, really hitting the high notes there, Mark. Give me your best, Dylan.
Normalize the bulge.
Very good. We are normalizing the bulge. Women can have bulges.
And that's okay.
Oh, my gosh.
In their little shopping shorts.
Oh, man. You want to hit the high notes there, John, or is that not your forte?
Those have eluded me for a couple of years.
Oh, man. But the double standard, the rampant double standard that you are getting from St. Louis University is what needs to be called out. Not that they're having Dylan Mulvaney. Let anyone split. Let college campuses be places for kids to hear from people all across the political spectrum. But at least let it be across the spectrum, not just one-sided because we've got way too much of that happening on college campuses right now. I'll tell you. Sheesh.
Normalize the bulge.
Marketplace is never wrong, man. Never wrong. And if you're one of these who's gotten caught up the last couple of days in equality of pay for WNBA and NBA players, well, I've got good news for you. The tide may be turning in your favor because the marketplace is moving in your favor, courtesy of rock star Caitlin Clark. So look at these numbers. Caitlin Clark's first WNBA game against the Minnesota Lynx on July 14th. Mark's already working on a couple of parlays for the game. I can see it in his eyes right now. Secondary market prices are going for, on median, $615. I mean, goodness gracious. I have 3 daughters. I love them. But, man, you'd be hard-pressed. I ain't paying $615 for much when it comes to tickets. I mean, the Springsteen tickets were close to that, and I was like, oh man, it's my birthday, whatever. But, man, WNBA games, I'm sorry, I ain't doing it. Not much I'm doing it for. Chiefs playoffs, so maybe Springsteen, that's about it. That's the short list on that front. But I look at this, and I say to myself, if you're upset, if you're like, hey, Caitlin Clark's only making $75,000 a year, this is ridiculous. This is the kind of stuff that will help make the WNBA profitable, that then will increase salaries for the players, because that's how the free market works. You know, the last couple of days, all you've heard is how equal play in the WNBA and the NBA is completely out of whack and it's unfair. As I noted yesterday, the WNBA loses $10 million a year. The NBA profits $3 billion a year. And if you actually crunch the numbers right now, based on that data, the WNBA players are actually overpaid. Whoa, you can't say that. No, they are overpaid. Let me explain here. You want to talk about revenues. The NBA generates $10 billion a year in revenue. The WNBA revenues are $60 million. When you crunch the numbers, the WNBA or the NBA generates 167 times the revenue of the WNBA. All right, we got that? We're all on the same page there? 167 times the revenue. But the average salary in the NBA is $9.6 million, and the average salary in the WNBA is $102,000. The NBA players earn 93 times the WNBA on average, yet the NBA generates 167 times the revenue. So by that metric, WNBA players are overpaid. I know, you can't say. No, I mean, that's the marketplace. Those are the facts. Now, that being said, if Caitlin Clark is able to make this sport profitable, then guess what will happen? Salaries will skyrocket, and you will see players making much more money. And guess what? That will be because you're buying tickets. And I mean, you, the average sports fan, you're watching games, you're going to games, you're consuming the product. That's what will drive up the salaries for the WNBA players, because that's how the marketplace works. If people consume your product, then guess what happens after that? You will make more money.
A rising tide lifts all boats, he said on a rainy day.
Thank you very much for that, John. And you're right about that, too. That's exactly how this works. So just like Tiger Woods did for golf, Tiger Woods brought the average sports fan to golf instead of just the uppity country club guy. More people started watching it. Ratings went up. Sponsorships went up. Purses went up. Everybody started making more money. Every single person who wants to see the WNBA players make more under this faux outrage of the week around, they're not making enough money. Well, guess what? Put your money where your mouth is. Start watching games this summer when Caitlin Clark is playing around the country. Go to games if you're traveling to other markets where they have WNBA teams, and start buying merchandise. And if you do that, the salaries will naturally start going up. And by the way, Caitlin Clark is set to sign an 8-figure deal with Nike. That includes a signature shoe. So she's going to be just A-okay. I promise you that.